So Mick, you're in Ireland final week. It's a good place to be. How preparations been going?
Good, yeah. I'm glad we're at this stage because sometimes it drags a little bit. But we're looking forward to the week ahead, and please God, it'll go well. We're injury free, so that's exactly where you'd want to be at this stage.
Sure, and it's probably a different mindset coming into an Ireland final as defending champions versus last year when you were coming in trying to win. And I appreciate you were playing Mayo last year, so you're both coming in having not won it the previous year. But is it a different way to prepare for a final? And is it everyone's gunning for you?
No, I don't think it is, and I've said this a few times. Like, it's when you win a prize, you park it, and obviously the distance between having won it then and the start of the National League, which became a completely new focus for us, I think helped us, and the fact that we'd never been successful in the National League, so that gave us a complete distraction, and all of a sudden the championship comes upon you and there's a new prize up for grabs in a new year, and that's the way we've gone after it.
No matter how impressive Dublin have been over the last 7 or 8 years, and even previous occasions when you were involved with them, Cork has always been a team that's been difficult to beat. So is it difficult to put the fact that it's Cork out of your mind, the fact that you had such a poor record, or Dublin I should say have had a poor record against them in recent years?
Yeah, I've never been involved, would you believe it, in championship football in like 2002, 2003 were the 2 years. Essentially we were coming up from Division 2 at that stage, so we didn't play Cork. Cork hadn't hit the ground at that stage, and obviously they've been the standard bearers since then. And last year Mayo took them out in the semi-final, so we didn't get the opportunity to play them in the final. So it hasn't been something we've had to deal with up until now. But funny enough, I suppose, even when we took over the group, obviously we were aware of the history over the last decade with Cork being dominant, but we'd be very much of the opinion with any team that we're involved with that it's not a colour of a team or a name of a team beat you. It's that if you're not good enough, you don't win, and if you're not good enough, then you have to look at the things that you weren't doing correctly. So we would have looked at those one way or the other, regardless who they were coming up against, and that was part of the preparation for last year, and it hasn't really changed for this year.
And in terms of looking at areas to improve on, obviously in the semi-final you made such a bright start, but if you look back in the tapes, were there areas maybe in the second half where you thought things could be a little bit different or things could be better?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the first 30 minutes of that game was outstanding. Their work rate, their tackling, their movement of the ball, their decision making, some of the scores they got were as good as we've seen from the group. And we started the second half quite similarly, like we put 2 scores on the board, and so it was probably about 12 minutes into the second half where we just started to make poor decisions, and we gave the ball back to them and gave them a little bit of initiative where it wasn't needed. But the most important thing in it was that we lost control of the game maybe for about 10 or 11 minutes, but we regained it, and that is something, I suppose if you look back in the history of the group, that is something that didn't happen. Like the swing of those games was, it's not so much, everyone has periods in the game where they dominate, it's to wrestle back control of the game, and that's the way we finished the game, so we were happy with that.
And I suppose as a marker, I know it's a long time ago now, 6 months ago now, but you played Cork in Croke Park back in the league and you beat them well, and I appreciate there's different players involved the weekend, but in terms of just the psychology of beating Cork in Croke Park, that must have been something that would have been a positive to take into the year.
At the time it probably didn't mean as much as it did moving on. It was an interesting game. We got 2 yellow cards which at key stages in the game, which obviously gave them a little bit of extra momentum. We were going through the team sheets actually. Cork had 12 players playing that day who will start on Sunday, which is quite interesting. We were remarking over the course of the league, we've used 37 different players, which is quite an amount of players to play to try and blood, and there was certainly 6 girls that evening who played in Croke Park for the first time. So all those things add up, and again, there was parts of that game we were really happy with, and there was parts we weren't. But the most important thing about it was that we finished it, and that's been a trait of this group that we feel has changed in the period of time, is that they're certainly a team that are able to go for 63 or 64 minutes.
Yeah, sure. I was in at the games down in Doctor Park for the Donegal Cork game, and the impression I got from Donegal was that they were able to get quite a bit of space. They were able to create chances which they maybe didn't take. And I suppose most people looking at ladies Gaelic football would think that inside Dublin full forward line is extremely strong. So I suppose you're looking at that and thinking it's about taking the chances that Donegal perhaps didn't in the semi-final.
Yeah, this will be probably a completely different game. That was a strange game when you see a team not contesting kickouts, and Cork progressed, 100 metres up the pitch before any form of contact was made. So it's kind of very, very difficult to gauge how that was. And Donegal have some excellent forwards, but at times they had 3 forwards and 7 defenders. It's almost impossible to gauge what the contest is, because it's not the same contest as going 6-on-6 or 6-on-7 for that matter, because you can't create the same angles of runs, you can't create the same support play. It becomes a war of attrition at times, and I feel the 2 teams that go out on Sunday will play a completely different game than that.
And in terms of building up to a game like this, how much time do you spend looking at Cork, and how much time do you spend concentrating on your own skills, your own tactics, all those kinds of areas?
Well, for the fortnight prior to this week, we spent a huge amount of time looking back on them. I'm actually tired looking at Cork at this stage. But look, we have a huge amount of respect for them. They've a really formidable forward line. It's funny listening to people talking about Cork's inexperience, and I think there's only 3 of them without All-Ireland medals, so that's a fairly experienced team. So we've done an amount of work on them, but this week comes back onto ourselves and the focus goes right back onto us.
And in terms of the build-up to an All-Ireland, how do you enjoy this week? Is it something that you can take in and enjoy, or are you just sort of, like tunnel vision, the game is on Sunday and that's all I'm thinking of?
No enjoyment this week, not a solitary minute of enjoyment. I look forward to the game. When the game starts, it's a completely different thing. You actually feel, when the minute that whistle is blown, you actually feel relaxed. All the other stuff, the periphery stuff, which has to be done because it's our job to take the weight of all this stuff for the players, I absolutely hate it until the day comes.
Just a couple of things. Parts of the job you will hate as well. You've got to sit down and pick your team for Sunday. There's going to be some players who are going to be disappointed. How difficult is that when you've got to go talk to a player and say, look, you won't be starting Sunday?
Yeah, there's two parts to it. One, we 34 squad members this year and 5 on a development squad, so we had a group of 39. So first of all, 4 won't make the 30. That's the first disappointment, right? Because it's not just them, it's the families, everything. It's obviously such a momentous day for the family, much more so than the player. The player has a job to do. And then there's the next stage. There's the starting team and then the finishing team. So there's quite a number of scenarios going on, and that is difficult because obviously only 20 can play. We've been fairly strong on this over the time since we've come in, that we've used 20 in every single game we've played to date, and I don't see it being any different on Sunday. But that's probably the hardest part, because the group that don't start, no matter how you coach it, and we'd have a huge value on the finishing group, it's still a disappointment, right? And then equally, if you don't get game time, that becomes obviously a bigger disappointment. But bottom line is this, everyone knows this, if you get over the line and you're successful, everyone shares in the spoils of war.
And I suppose it is conveying that to the players, like the whole group, that it is a squad game now. It's not always about the starting 15. As you say, sometimes it's the players that come off the bench that finish the game off, and I suppose it's your job to instill that in the actual group itself, to go, look, you may not be starting, but you are a serious member of this group, and you are important here.
Well, if ever we needed that to be proven, it was in the last 10 minutes of last year's All-Ireland final. The game was 3 points at that stage. It's 3 points is kick of a ball away from the game and taken away from you. And we put 3 substitutes on during that period of time to finish it off, and obviously Sarah Mack scored 2 goals, but it wasn't just Sarah Mack, it was the people who did the work to get the ball to her. So that's we've made that point all year, that if you were looking for the reason why your finishing group was important, well, that's all you needed to see.
And looking at the final itself, is it a big help to the players that they've got used to All-Ireland final day, like this their 5th in a row? They're used to all the build up to it, and also all that goes on during the day. The parade, the noise of the crowd, because normally they're not playing in front of crowds of that size. So is that a big help?
Huge, yeah, absolutely. And funny enough, even the girls with all their experience, they still spoke about last year, about when they ran out onto the pitch, that the noise levels, they just couldn't, they hadn't, and it is nearly noisier than the fellas, because I think women and children just make that higher pitch or whatever else. But equally then the upper tier's been open, which was a whole new experience for them. But they warmed that. I mean, the cauldron obviously can do different things to different people, but it certainly got the best out of them.
And what have you seen different from the group, this year after winning the All-Ireland last year? What did that actually do to those group of players?
Look, I suppose, the biggest thing for them last year was relief, because after obviously having gone through 3 campaigns and not been successful, that's tough. And then there was a new goal almost immediately to have gone into a national league, which they hadn't won. It was lovely to see different players had grown so much, and that's what we saw. It's an enjoyable time in their football careers. That's the way this is supposed to be. Sometimes it's painted a little bit differently, but we all know there's a lot of commitment in it and there's a lot of hard hours. But it's supposed to be enjoyable, and there's lots of things away from the day that people don't see that are, fantastic to be a part of. Whether it's weekends away or simple social evenings that you'd organise during the course of it, because not only are they the team representing their county, but they're great friends, and that bond beyond football is it's kind of unquantifiable, and we don't often get to see it, I suppose. So when we get to see glimpses of it within the group, it's a lovely thing.